Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Crispy Compact Communiqué, the weird alternate version of the Crispy Noodle podcast. I can't say it's 2020 anymore. It's now 2021.
That's true. That's true.
But a part of me still feels like this is 2020 part 2. Like it's a continuation. The nonsense keeps going. But we're still here to somehow give you a podcast with the latest tidbits in sports, entertainment, and odd news. I got to say this right off the top of the bat. I'm sorry for everyone watching the visual portion. My laptop is still in the shop. Unfortunately, the model laptop that I had has really rare parts.
You and your fancy laptop with your rare parts can't find them. They got to special custom order them.
Yep, I chose the wrong one apparently because the parts for this one are going to take a while. So unfortunately, we are kind of back to a bare bones podcast. That's the bad news. The good news is that eventually it will get fixed, and when it does get fixed, I am happy to say, and Mike has seen this, so this isn't me just blowing smoke out of my ass. We are going to have a revamped broadcast look when we return with my brand spanking new laptop and we're off the ground running back on the programs that we're used to and everything like that. So this is a little bit of a hiccup. We got to deal with it for right now, but once everything is sorted out, we are going to be raring to go in 2021, especially if you're a fan of our Facebook Live or YouTube broadcast. You're really going to enjoy it. The layout looks great. And yeah, that's all I'll tease for it for right now, because once it hits, then people will go, ooh, ah.
That's right. Save your oohs and ahs. I can attest to the fact that it does look really cool. You guys are really going to enjoy it. So
yeah, we'll get there eventually. It's just a matter of when some of these rare laptop parts come in, because right now, yeah, the market for some of these items are either just hard to find or just all being bought up. It's a crazy market right now. Some people are just, I think, hoarding things for the sake of hoarding things. So it's bizarro world, but we're still here and we're still going to get through it, and we're still going to give you a show every week as long as the internet is available.
That's right. Hey, 2020 and 2021 keep throwing their punches and we keep dodging them. We're still here. We're still standing.
That's right. I don't know how, but we're still standing and still here to give you a fresh podcast. Before we get into sports, entertainment, and odd news, Mike, how you doing, my friend? What's happening over there?
I'm doing good. Things have been going great. I recently started watching a show called The Boys on Amazon Prime Video. Some of you may have heard of it. It's pretty popular on Amazon Prime. I'm always a little late to these things, so I've been catching up on last season, and I just started season 2. But if you're not familiar with the premise of it, it's imagine superheroes gone bad, right? Imagine if, modern day America had actual superheroes, and imagine how corporatized and PR focused these superheroes would be. They're more focused on the hashtags and on the, how the stopping of the crime plays with certain demographics rather than, actually stopping bad guys. It's more movie and book tours than it is fighting crime. And it's all about the seedy underbelly of this highly corporatized version of a, Justice League / Avengers type superhero group. So it's a dark comedy. I would say almost like Barry style, where it's, it's got lots of action. It's got a lot of darker humor elements to it. It's got a lot of shocking moments in it. But then it also has that overlay of the sci-fi, espionage / superhero plot going on. So it's really, really fun, really, really interesting. And it's one of those shows that really keeps you guessing at every turn and really keeps its hooks in you. So I've really been enjoying that. I'm already 2 episodes into season 2. The seasons are only 8 episodes long, about an hour each. So not too much. Nice short Amazon style. I like how Amazon keeps their series nice and short or their seasons nice and short. So that's what I've been up to. Rich, what have you been up to recently other than waiting for your laptop?
Yeah, other than that, I would say it's just been playoff football, man. This is kind of the end of the run for football, but I do love playoff football. It's so much fun to analyze games and get into the nitty-gritty details. Especially when you're concentrating on just one game. I feel like that's my bread and butter is when you really sometimes, when you're getting through the NFL season, there's, 14, 15, 16 games that, you got to consider. So sometimes it kind of is a little overload. But when you get to playoffs and every game is its own storyline and its own thing, I enjoy it much more. And it feels like more of an event for me, especially this weekend with us having 3 games on Saturday and 3 games on Sunday. It was a good hearty amount of playoff football, and I loved it.
So you were just glued to the TV watching good old NFL on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, that is my favorite thing to do in January. Good old playoff football.
I mean, you can't beat the playoffs, right?
That's right. And we'll get into more playoff talk in just a little bit, but let's dive into sports. I'm going to break up the football talk because there is news that just came in right before we started recording this podcast, and that was a huge blockbuster trade went through in the NBA, one that the Sixers were linked to, and it was looking like a possibility that James Harden might come to Philadelphia and be a part of this team, but unfortunately, those talks fell through, and instead James Harden is going to the Brooklyn Nets for an insane amount of draft capital. Brooklyn, they are now Houston's draft bitch because Brooklyn gave up their next 3 first-round picks. So whatever they generally own there. They also gave up a first-round pick that they got from the Milwaukee Bucks. So that's 4 first-round picks altogether. And then in addition to that, for the next 4 seasons, they also have the rights to swap first-round draft picks with the Brooklyn Nets if they get a better first-round draft pick in those upcoming 4 seasons. So this is literally for the next 3 to 4 seasons, Brooklyn is now Houston's draft bitch.
That is insane. I mean, that is so much draft capital. I mean, the question on my mind right off the bat is James Harden worth it? Is James Harden worth essentially 4 years worth of being completely beholden to another team in terms of the draft? I mean, you are sacrificing your ability to build and you're sacrificing your ability to maneuver for the next 3 to 4 years. Is James Harden worth it? And if he is, like you mentioned, the Sixers were possibly in on this. Why weren't they more in on it? So 2 questions there. Is it worth it? And why did the Sixers decide not to go there?
Well, I mean, obviously it just seems to be the better offer. I bet you it got to this ridiculous point where they were talking about, a 4th first-round draft pick. And I bet you the 76ers just walked away on that. We can't give up 4 consecutive first-round draft picks, but Brooklyn was willing to. And for them, it makes sense because now they've officially gone all in on their own big 3 because they have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And now the Nets have their powerhouse big 3 that they compete with. They can compete with any team, whether it's the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference, if they should make it to the NBA Finals. This is a team now that can compete with anybody this season.
So it seems to me that their window, they've basically set their window. The next 3 years, they have to get it done. Because if I understand correctly, these 4 first-round picks all happen in the next 3 years.
Correct.
So their window is these next 3 years, they got to get it done because they sacrificed those 3 years of building. If they can't get it done in that window, then all of this was for naught. This is going to be a very costly endeavor if they can't get to the promised land.
That's correct. And unfortunately, I love the way that you put it, Mike, because I don't think you even intended to put it that way, because there are some people that hate James Harden that kind of view James Harden as a poison pill in Houston. So this is either going to go one of two ways. Either the new environment is what Harden needs, and he rebounds and becomes the player that the Nets need to go to the NBA Finals, or he proves the doubters right, and maybe this whole time that Houston, he's been with the Houston Rockets since 2010, and they had times where they looked like they were going to be the Western Conference champions, and they didn't pull it out. So it's going to go one of two ways. Either the haters are going to be justified in this, or the Nets get their final cog in their puzzle for their big three, and they have their success with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So it's interesting. Man. It's a great storyline.
It is a great storyline. It also highlights one of the things that I have found that I always find ridiculous about basketball is just the amount of capital that gets traded back and forth. And you mentioned these first round swapping options. I mean, you were telling me before we started recording, off the podcast about what that all means. And it's just like a completely foreign concept to me that a team can be like, no, we'd rather have your draft pick, and just swap picks. It's ridiculous. And personally, I don't think any player is worth that amount of capital. You're sacrificing the potential building blocks of your team. But then again, you look at it from the other perspective, and you're like, okay, building blocks. The 76ers have had great building blocks over the past, decade or so. And what have they done with it? So, two schools of thought here. You either use that capital for a proven talent, or you try and hit it big in the draft, so we'll see how it works for the Nets. Now the path has been paved for them, they got their big three, so we'll see how it all works out for them.
Yep. It's definitely going to be interesting to see their road to the NBA Finals if they do make it all the way. It'll be a storyline to keep an eye on. Will this Harden trade work?
It will definitely be something to keep our eyes on. Yeah, especially because if it does work, then everybody in Philadelphia will be kicking themselves going, why didn't the Sixers just offer that last draft pick? But the Nets' future is a little bit more tangible than other teams. Swapping things over now to football, there's one team in particular whose future is anything but certain, and that is, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles. Rich is already upset. I can already tell. Rich, where do we begin? The Eagles officially this week fired head coach Doug Pederson. Heads needed to roll. Did you think it would be the head that needed to roll?
So I don't know if fire is the right term for Doug Pederson.
Really? You're thinking this is more of a creative difference type breakup? This is a Beatles moment?
I think so. I bet you I'd be willing to place money that this is probably what happened behind the scenes, is that Laurie probably had a meeting with Pederson and told him, you need an outsider for your offensive coordinator, because you've had now, 2 years of play calling the offense without Frank Reich, and you were in direct control of the offense.
Right.
And both of those seasons, you haven't been anywhere close to the offensive production that you had during the Super Bowl year.
Yeah.
And I bet you, he said, you need to have another voice. You need to have somebody to provide a fresh idea, somebody to challenge you on some of the things that you believe, somebody to maybe pull the reins back and say, whoa, is this the right call? Should we maybe look at this angle? And I think Doug Pederson, he's not the kind of guy that he wants to have like a dissenting voice in his head. And that's in some ways it sounds arrogant, But in other ways, I agree with that. If I'm going to be the head coach of this team, I want to be able to control the team the way I want to control it. So I'm not totally on the Doug Pederson got fired. It's 100% his fault. He sucks. Why did he let this get to this point? Bandwagon. Because I do feel like as a head coach, he should be able, he wants to run the team the way he wants to run his team. I was just watching A Few Good Men the other night, and Colonel Jessup, he says, I run my unit how I run my unit. You want to investigate me, roll the dice and take your chances. Like that kind of mentality. And for better or for worse, that's kind of, I think, been his mindset. But unfortunately, after you're coming off of a season where your franchise quarterback regrets so much off of a season where you only put up 4 wins, there's gonna be some challenges to your authority. And I think Pederson didn't like that, especially coming from people higher up than him in the organization. And I think when they had their last meeting, I think Pederson just flat out said, if you don't like the way I'm doing this, then just let me go. And I think that's probably what happened. Lori was probably like, all right, then we don't see eye to eye. And
Yeah.
maybe it's best we just break up for right now.
So a couple thoughts on what you said. One, I think you're more right than not when it comes to your assessment of what happened in those meetings, because everything that I've read and seen online indicates that, up until the meetings earlier in the week, it was all good for Pederson to come back in 2021 and to continue on being the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. What was said in those meetings, I think, dramatically changed the course of the expected outcome. And what they talked about specifically was the outlook for the future. And I know 2 of the main talking points were, what was going to happen with the offensive coaching staff, what was going to happen with the quarterback situation. And from what I understand is that Doug Pederson wanted to promote from within, wanted to promote quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator or pass game coordinator or whatever BS term they have instead of offensive coordinator. And Lori didn't like that idea. And every suggestion. Yeah.
Just real quick, again, like, no offense, but that's not finding new blood. That's just promoting another guy that you hired, another yes man up the chain. It doesn't really inject anything new into the coaching staff.
My problem with the Eagles the past few years is they epitomize failing upward. Okay, because Press Taylor. So here's the thing. I think the whole view about this, what you said about Doug Pederson wanting to run his own team and run his brigade the way that he wants to, that's all fine and dandy. That's very romanticized, but the reality of it is that he's been running it the way he wants to, and it's been into the ground.
This season, definitely.
I would argue even 2019. I mean, you have a head coach that won in his second year as a head coach, coming from relative obscurity under Andy Reid with Kansas City, winning in his second year, writes a book about winning in his second year, and then proceeds to steadily drive this team further and further away from that pinnacle. And it was because of his decisions. So I think that he did finally reach the end of his rope, and he reached the end of his leash, that Lurie let him run things the way that he wanted to, because let's face it, no team would go into a season trying to reclaim Super Bowl glory and not have an offensive coordinator. I mean, this all falls on Doug. When we talk about, creative differences and, there's too much say from upper management. Well, I think this is the time where upper management needs to step in and say, yo, what are you doing? You need an offensive coordinator. You clearly are not getting it done. So I agree that that's the reason why well, not that I disagree, but I just think that I think this whole thing about Doug Pederson is like this unchallengeable, or like, that he deserves to run the team the way he wants to. No, not if he's running it the wrong way.
Yeah. And that doesn't matter whether or not you win a Super Bowl. Like, if Bill Belichick comes out tomorrow and says, I'm going to hire Tom Cruise to be my special teams coordinator, like, no offense to Tom Cruise, but he doesn't have any skill set in punting and kicking, at least not that I
Yeah.
know of.
He might be one of the best.
Maybe. But yeah, like something like that. Like if you make a blanket outright bad decision, you're gonna get called out on it. That's just the way it is.
Of which Doug Pederson made several. And you know, I mentioned a few weeks ago about Doug Pederson and his handling of the final game of the season and the questionable call about pulling Hurts and the comments that he made afterwards. And I said something didn't smell right. I said, you know, this is gonna damage his standing in the locker room or with management, or it was going to make things more difficult. And sure enough, I don't think that that's ultimately what led to it, but there was clearly two camps in the Eagles organization. One camp that wants to see Wentz continue to be quarterback, and one camp that probably wanted to see Hurts at quarterback. And from what I understand, I read an article from the Philadelphia Inquirer today. Troy Aikman said that there was a difference of opinion at Eagles quarterback position fueled Doug Pederson's firing. That upper management wanted Wentz, and that what he's understanding is that that Doug Pederson felt that Jalen Hurts should have been quarterback going forward. So, you know, all this is speculation, but it's just an interesting little article from the Philadelphia Inquirer today. You know, Troy Aikman, Hall of Fame quarterback, you know, former Cowboys quarterback, but still knows what he's talking about. I don't know I don't know if you want to take that with a grain of salt, you know, but it lends a little bit of context to all the smoke we've been seeing the past couple of years, you know, about how difficult Wentz is in the locker room and how he's not been as coachable as before. And it's just a real messy situation.
Well, I'll tell you what,
his locker room right now.
If you're a fan of Carson Wentz, this is great news for you because it looks like Carson Wentz is here to stay.
Yeah, this is basically a power struggle. And not that Wentz had anything to do with the firing, but this basically cements Wentz as the number one going forward.
Yeah.
Because of that relationship fracturing that everybody had been talking about between Wentz and Doug Pederson. You know, everybody was wondering, you know, which piece is going to go, which piece is going to stay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. And now as we look to the future, trying to find a new head coach and offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator.
It's a disaster. It's a disaster.
But now you need to find an offensive coordinator and a head coach that believes Carson Wentz can reclaim his former glory.
Right.
It's going to be tough to find.
You need to find a head coach and offensive coordinator that's willing to put up with an aging, overpriced roster. They're going to have to gut the roster. They have to deal with quarterback controversy. And now they have to deal with these murmurs that the ownership has too much say in football operations. So who do you turn to fill those vacancies? The name that I'm hearing, Rich, I want to know how you feel about this. Deuce Staley as either OC or head coach.
Okay, let's break the car a little bit here. All right, offensive coordinator, I understand. He's been a strong facet of the coaching of the running game for the last couple of seasons. He's been great at turning some of these people that were viewed as kind of running back busts, and he's gotten production out of these players. So he has merit for offensive coordinator, but pump the brakes. That's it. I do not understand where this call coming from is for him being head coach.
I've seen it online, and I'm in complete agreement with you. It actually makes sense for him to be offensive coordinator,
right?
Because then the head coach coming in, they don't have to worry about finding an offensive coordinator. They have a guy who's been in the system, who's been with the team both as a player and a coach, coming up through the ranks. They don't have to. That's one thing that they don't have to worry about in a locker room that right now is, I think, despite what anybody says, the media spin in Philadelphia is very good coming out of the Philadelphia Eagles. But you look at the way they played, this is not a team that has a cohesive team. I mean, it doesn't matter how you dice it. I think that there's more trouble in that locker room than we're being led to believe. That's just my hot take on it. You know, as bad hot takes go, that's my bad hot take. So you get somebody who's used to dealing with this locker room, who's been in the system, who's been with the team. The players in the locker room respect him. You install him as offensive coordinator, the new head coach's job becomes infinitely easier, I think. So I think Deuce Staley should be the offensive coordinator. I think it should stop there. Finding a head coach and a defensive coordinator, those are two very tricky positions left that they have to fill.
Right. The problem is going to be is, though, you have to find a head coach first, because the head coach coming in, he has to give his stamp of approval on the coordinators he's going to be working with.
Right.
So you can't outright just give Deuce Staley the offensive coordinator job right now. Unfortunately, it all starts with the head coaching gig. And right now, though, the Eagles are a full week behind the other 5 teams in the NFL that got rid of their head coaches during the season or on the Monday after the season ended. So
yeah,
the Eagles are just playing catch up, and I don't know how they're gonna entice top tier coaching candidates to come their way.
They're going to end up going with another relative unknown, like Doug Pederson was.
Yeah.
It's really I can't see any top tier coach wanting to come into this situation with a disgruntled quarterback, aging vets, a huge overpriced roster, and a team in disarray. I hate to throw around the term. It's been thrown around casually a little bit, but rebuild, Rich.
Yeah.
Are we in rebuild mode? I mean, we're 71 million over the cap, quarterback controversy.
I think
no coaches whatsoever. I mean, I don't know what constitutes a rebuild if not this.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's safe to say the Eagles are going to head into a rebuilding mode, but that doesn't mean that we're going to be in 3 years of crappy football. Number one, the league isn't built like that anymore. This league is built for parity. NFL stands for not for long. The Eagles may be in the basement for a season or two, but I think that's it. And also, at least we're not the Houston Texans. We still have draft capital.
That's right, exactly. And hey, look at the the last time we got a new head coach, we went 7-9 and then Super Bowl. So I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but you're right. Things can flip on a dime. I mean, look at the Browns. Look at the Dolphins. Things change very quickly in this league. So I wouldn't count us out yet, but to say anything other than this is a rebuild, I think is being disingenuous. When you have to find all 3 major coaches, solve a quarterback controversy, and shed $71 million of cap space, that's a rebuild, folks.
The Eagles got their work cut out for them.
Yes, they do. But they're not the only NFL teams with their work cut out for them. No, we're heading into the divisional round of the playoffs, which means that we're back to the Fantastic Four picks, not the Super Six picks. I don't know what that was last week, the Super Wild Card Weekend. Just throw super in front of everything. Super duper. But no, we're back to the Fantastic Four picks. Finally, Rich. Normally,
this is the last time for Fantastic Four picks.
That is true. The last time for Fantastic Four picks. The next time we have Fantastic Four picks, maybe we'll be, recording the proper podcast again.
I hope so.
Next fall. That would be great, wouldn't it? But for now, we're going to have our final Fantastic Four picks of the season with the divisional round of the playoffs. First up, we have the LA Rams traveling to Lambeau to face off against the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is playing out of this world this season. He had a fire lit under his ass. He came back with a vengeance, and he just took the NFC by storm. Rich, why is he going to progress to the conference championship game?
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, it's Packers, right?
Yeah. I think you might have said this on a past podcast that I might be a secret Packers fan, but
you are.
I love this story. I love the fact that this franchise drafted a quarterback, and ever since then, Aaron Rodgers has been pissed off. He has been playing this entire season just to show the Packers that, hey, I'm not retired yet. I'm still in my prime. And I think he's going to come out in this game, number 1 seed in the NFC. He's going to light up the Rams. He wants to show them that they made a mistake in kind of anointing his successor already. He doesn't believe his career is over. And I think this is going to be his next step in showing that. I think the Packers win this one. And I think the point spread is a touchdown. I think they cover it too. I really like the Packers in this matchup.
Okay. Well, as down as I've been on the Packers in previous year, there's no debating the fact that the Packers are the best team in the NFC this year. I mean, just every measurable that you have, they're top 10 in. But Aaron Rodgers in particular, this league anymore runs through the quarterback. And if you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, it makes things so much easier. The LA Rams, on the other hand, have been hot and cold this season. They've been hot, they've been on, they've been off. Jared Goff, he's still dealing with an injury, I believe. If you ask me, this one's a pretty simple one. I think it's Green Bay, comfortable at home. The LA Rams, they're used to playing in sunny Los Angeles. I don't know how they're going to fare with the cold winter winds of Lambeau Field. It's going to be Packers. Next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. I love this game. This is going to be really exciting. I've really enjoyed the Buffalo Bills this year and the story there. Rich, can they continue the playoff dreams here and win another one, this time against the Ravens?
So this is going to be echoing a little bit of my sentiment from last week. But I don't trust the Bills defense. I just don't. And I was almost right. That Bills defense almost gave away the game last week. Phillip Rivers, unfortunately, he had one of his, trademark worst incompletions at the worst time in the fourth quarter of the game last week. But they had the Bills on the ropes. For the Colts being a 7 seed, they were taking it to the Bills. They had them on the ropes. So I'm not too thrilled with the Bills. On the other hand, the Ravens, coming off of a huge win against the Titans, I think having that confidence for Lamar Jackson that he finally got his first playoff win, and it was against a former foe that knocked him out of the playoffs last year. And the fact that defense is coming together too, that Ravens defense is hellacious. They literally stopped Derrick Henry. I don't think people are giving the Ravens defense enough credit. They stopped Derrick Henry. He had a horrible game last week because of that defense. I like a little upset here. I think the Ravens take this one.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Bills. The Bills have proven that they can hang in there with the best of the best. I'm looking at this really interesting stat right here. Josh Allen is 5-0 versus top 10 total defenses this season. So while the Ravens have a tough defense, I don't know that they've come up against anybody quite like the Bills. I mean, the Bills are second overall in offense this league year. So, it's a completely different beast. While I will say that the Bills defense is suspect, I also saw a report that this will be Lamar Jackson's first potential snow game. If they have snow in Buffalo, it'll be his first ever snow game as a football player. I mean, college and professional. I mean, you're shaking your head. You're giving me this look, but that's something that's something to keep. That
is fair.
Buffalo plays in the far north, just like Green Bay. Everybody talks about Lambeau Field and Green Bay, how tough it is to play there. Guess what? Buffalo gets just as cold.
Buffalo's just as tough.
Yeah. So you know what? It could completely change the flow of this game. It could, completely undermine all the arguments we're making here about, maybe it doesn't become such, maybe the Bills offense is, stymied a little bit. Maybe the Ravens are a little bit sloppier on defense. Maybe the ground game doesn't get going for the Ravens if they're slipping and sliding in the snow. It's, there's a whole slew of possibilities here. So for that reason, I'm going with the home team, the Buffalo Bills. First time in the playoffs, they're feeling some sort of magic right now. Don't discount that either. I know the Ravens won a good one against a tough opponent to give them some confidence, but the Bills are emboldened by being in the playoffs for the first time in how many years? 20 some years.
It's their first playoff win in forever.
First playoff win in forever. So I'm really liking
95.
I think that was when they missed four. They made it to four straight,
right?
4 straight Super Bowls and lost all of them or something. Or championship games. I can't remember my history.
Super Bowls.
Yeah. So they're feeling the magic. They deserve it. I'm going with the Bills. Next up, we have a newcomer. We talk about the Bills being a newcomer to the playoffs. This is a real newcomer to the playoffs versus the defending champs. The Cleveland Browns are traveling to Arrowhead Stadium to face off against the Kansas City Chiefs. Rich, why are the Chiefs going to school the newcomers? I don't think we're not fooling anybody. We're not going with, neither of us are going with Browns, right?
Boy, is this a sign that it's 2021? This is the apocalypse here. The Browns are technically 2 wins away from making it to a Super Bowl.
Wouldn't that be something?
It would. No, I can't see the Browns pull.
You're like, it would be something. Nah,
it would be a great story. But
it's not happening.
I don't think it happens. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. A lot of the sharp money that has been bet on this game has come on overs. So if you're a fan of playing the total points, you better get your over bets in now, because the total points benchmark is just going to skyrocket the later you wait. And I think it already has too. I think last time I checked, it was at 57 total points. So it's gonna keep going and ticking up higher and higher. So that also means probably a better chance at an offensive shootout. And who would you rather take in an offensive shootout than Patrick Mahomes? It just seems unfair. There's too many things lining up for Kansas City. They're coming off of the comfy bye week, playing at home, superstar quarterback, Andy Reid. He's gonna have some tricks up his sleeve. The only thing that can go wrong is if the Chiefs defense really plays atrociously and they never get a stop. But other than that, I don't see how Cleveland pulls out a win here. It's too much.
Yeah. While, I just made the argument that the Bills are going to ride that high of winning their first playoff game, I don't see the Browns being able to do the same thing, because the opponents they're facing are in different leagues. They really are. The Ravens, they were good this season. No one touches the level that the Chiefs have been at this season, 14-2. Andy Reid, you'll appreciate this, Rich, and you know this, being a former Eagles coach. Andy Reid is 25-5 in his career after a bye week.
He loves his bye week. Yep.
It gives that offensive mastermind another week to prepare. And the Chiefs, I've said this since Patrick Mahomes came onto the scene real big. I always said, this is the quarterback that Andy Reid always wanted. This is the offense that Andy Reid always wanted. And look at what he's doing with it. They're nigh unstoppable. First overall in the league. I don't think the Browns have a chance, but I think you're right. It will be a high scoring game. The Browns have weirdly put up points on some opponents. So don't count them out entirely, but I'm going with the Chiefs.
Yeah, the Browns have a fantastic running game. And when you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt as your 1-2 punch, that makes everybody's job easier. That's why Baker Mayfield is having a great year this season. He literally has the pressure put off of him, because when you have a running back gaining 5 yards on first down, 2nd and 5, third and short, that's so much easier to convert than 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10. So that's why he's had success.
They should send a memo to the Eagles. The next game we have is this is a game of a generation right here. Not many times you get to say this. Brady versus Breeze. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to New Orleans to face off against the Saints. Rich, this is a quarterback duel to end all quarterback duels. Tom Brady on one side, Drew Brees on the other, one with a brand new team, one with his long-term team. Who wins?
All right.
It's a Sunday kind of prime time, late afternoon heading into prime time.
So I gotta point out something here. The Saints now heading into this playoff run. This is kind of the first time all season that Breeze, Kamara, and Michael Thomas are all on the same field together and healthy.
Ooh.
This has been the first time this entire season.
That's scary.
Right?
That's scary.
If you think about any game during this week, there was something happening with one of those three in that power trio. Either Breeze was hurt, Kamara was hurt, or Thomas got suspended in the middle of the season. There was something happening with one of those players throughout this whole run. And yet the Saints still managed to finish with a record that got them the number 2 seed. And keep in mind, they beat the Buccaneers twice during the season, including one of them that was a blowout. So now you're telling me the Saints are at full operational capacity like the Death Star. And they actually, for the first time in what seems like forever for this Saints team, they actually have a defense. Say what you want about the Bears. They held a playoff offense to 3 points up until that garbage time touchdown by Jimmy Graham last week. They held them to 3 points the entire game. I don't know. I think this might be the thing that finally breaks Brady. I think Saints pull this one off at home. Assuming there's no blown call, I'm gonna go Saints in this one.
Oh man, this is a tough one. This is a tough one because both these teams, very, very good. I mean, both offense and defense, they both have good offenses and defenses. This could go one of two ways. This could be a huge shootout, or it could be like one of those weird situations where you think it's going to be a shootout and it's really like a low scoring game, like 17-14, something insane like that, because you think, oh my God, all these offensive weapons is going to be fireworks. And then it's the exact opposite. Man, you know me. I spent years and years on this podcast picking Brady in the playoffs. He never led me astray. But this is a different team. This is a different coach. This is a different conference than he's used to. And he's adapted well. But, man, I don't know. The Saints are just they're just, like I said, a different type of team, the Saints. On the other hand, the Saints and playoffs, they don't necessarily go together that well.
Yeah, it does seem like the fate of fools that something's going to happen to this team at some point.
It reminds me of like the Chargers from years ago when we were younger, with LaDainian Tomlinson. The Chargers would, oh my God, be 13-3, 14-2, get
out in the first round.
And LaDainian Tomlinson runs for 7 yards, then he sits on the bench all winded the rest of the game. Man, my gut says go with Buccaneers, but my head says go with the Saints. I think when it's that close, you give the slight edge to the home team. You give the slight edge to the team that's comfortable playing together, that's been playing together for a while. Breeze, Thomas, and Kamara, they've been at this a few times. Brady, for as well as he's done, this is his first time leading that team, first time with his new team in the playoffs. I think you give a slight edge to the Saints, but man, I would not be surprised if Brady goes in there and just absolutely thumps them. Honestly.
All right. Well,
I'm giving the slight edge to the Saints, though. Very slight. I really do not trust them, and I do not like that team. But that's more of a personal note.
Yeah, on a personal note, yeah. I think we're both in agreement. We don't like the Saints and Sean Payton.
Yeah.
But I think putting all the factors together, I think the Saints come out in this one. And I just...
for some reason, they just have massive chips on their shoulders every single year. So that might drive them to a playoff win, only to get crushed by the Packers, which would just be absolutely glorious. I would love nothing more. So yes, the Saints win. So they can go on and get humiliated in the conference round.
So yeah, I think Saints win this. And I can't trust. I don't know if you watched, to go way back to the beginning of the podcast, I watched that entire Buccaneers Washington football team game on Saturday night.
That was a close one.
It was, it was shockingly close. And that was against a team with no name, a team that was starting a quarterback that just got picked up a month ago on their practice team. And the Buccaneers almost lost that game. So I'm not really confident in the Buccaneers in pulling a road playoff win.
Yeah. Well, we will see. Both of us giving the edge to the Saints. Rich, I think, more comfortably than I am. I think I think there's a possibility it could go either way, but I think the Saints will eventually pull it out. But either way, it should be a fantastic weekend of football. I mean, these are some of the best teams. These are the only teams worth watching right now, basically. We suffered through the other 20 some other terrible teams just to get to this crop of 8 incredible teams, and I'm including the Eagles in those terrible teams. So this will be a good week of football.
Yep. Also, sorry if you're a Steelers fan. You guys sucked.
Oh, well. Boo-hoo. Cry me a river, Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Christ. I watched that game too. Oh my God. The Steelers did not prepare for that game.
Good for the Browns. Good for the Browns. I could imagine the Steelers. Mike Tomlin's kind of a pompous ass. He could go in there and be like, "Oh, the Browns are a division rival. We're going to go out there. We're going to school them. We know a thing or two. We're the Steelers. We're the Steelers."
Nope.
They go out there and get smacked. Good on you, Browns. Shame on you, Steelers.
The Steelers were looking ahead. They did not think the Browns were not going to, especially after the COVID report came out that they were not going to have their head coach and a couple of other players.
100% trap game. You don't let the Browns go up 28 points to nothing in the first quarter.
First quarter.
Yeah. No. Complete trap game. The Steelers walked out there like they were going to waltz over them. I think you texted me at one point that you were like, "Oh my God, it's like 28-3." I'm like, what is happening? What is going on?
Yeah, it was bonkers. So sorry, Steelers. Bye-bye. That game was embarrassing.
Yeah. I didn't watch any of it, but I saw the score, man. I think we both enjoyed a little too much trashing on the Steelers right there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for sports. We've had enough sports. It is now time to move to entertainment. We've got a couple headlines to discuss. Mike, what do you want to tackle first?
Yeah, first up, well, actually, oddly enough,
as I switch to coffee.
As you said, is it that point in the night you need the coffee to stay awake?
I'm switching I had the sports drink for sports, and now I'm having coffee for entertainment.
Coffee for entertainment. There you go. Well, you know what, Rich? Just like you're switching it up, Marvel and Disney are also switching it up. This first headline here is a little bit of a shocker, but I think an anticipated and an appreciated one by Marvel fans. Deadpool 3 is officially in the works. But not only that, Marvel and Disney have confirmed that Deadpool will be joining the MCU and will also become the MCU's first ever R-rated film. These are actually, I know it doesn't sound like a wild headline, but when you really think about it in context, this is a wild headline, because it puts to rest a lot of things that Disney and Marvel fans had been concerned about over the Fox acquisition. When Disney took over Fox, like, oh, what are they going to do with all these fun Fox properties? We love our R-rated movies. And I said at the time, remember, I said, Disney's not dumb. You don't become a multi-billion-dollar monolithic corporation that turns out 27 superhero movies, all, some of the best grossing films of all time. And you don't do that by accident. You don't do that stupidly. And so here comes Disney. We're going to keep the R rating. We're going to keep Deadpool, and we're going to roll them right into the MCU. This is a win-win-win, I think, for everyone. What's your hot take here, Rich?
Yeah, I'm glad to see that Disney is going to allow this to still be rated R. Because, I mean,
it was a concern. It was a concern.
Yeah.
I remember saying, hey, trust in Disney. They're not dumb. They know what they've got. They didn't buy Fox thinking, oh, we're going to shy away from Fox's properties. That's why they wanted Fox. It's the demographic they hadn't touched yet. Now they have it all.
Yeah. But it was a concern. I wasn't sure if Disney would be willing to go that far, but I'm glad that they've recommitted to Deadpool. I hope this continues with all the other properties that Fox has. Because it would be a shame if they tried to child-proof some of the entries that they have through Fox.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I hope whenever they come around to doing the next season of Mayans, I hope it's still TV mature, because that's a show that it has to be TV mature. I can't see that being knocked down a peg to, was it TV 14? I guess would be the next one.
Yeah, TV 14. Yeah.
No, that can't happen. So I'm glad that this is the right first step, and I hope that Disney maintains this attitude with their other more mature entities.
Yeah, I agree. As bullish as I was, as confident as I was that Disney was going to make the right choice, like you said, it was always a concern. And they had been radio silent on Deadpool for a while. And I don't know what prompted this announcement or what prompted this move, but it's reassuring. And I think it confirms a few things that I had been suggesting, that, Disney, when you buy a property as big as Fox, that controls as much as Fox, I don't think that, now, of course, I'm speaking, I have no sort of, this is all just wild speculation, an analysis by me, but like, you don't buy a property like Fox and go, I'm going to change everything, or I'm going to completely upend, decades worth of television and movie rights. That's not sound business practices. You know what I mean? Why take something that's tried and proven and mess with it? Disney's in the business of printing money. They're slapping a mouse on everything. Do you think they want to stop printing money? No, of course not.
Money is nice.
Yeah, money is nice. Disney will do anything to print money. So if Deadpool being R and joining the MCU, think about how much money that prints. Deadpool was wildly successful out of the MCU. Now it keeps Ryan Reynolds, it keeps him working on the script, it keeps it R-rated, and it rolls it into one of the highest grossing movie cinematic universes in the history of film. I mean, this is a win for everybody, I think. So it's very exciting news. It'll be very interesting to see how they put Deadpool, or if they put Deadpool into MCU films that are not R-rated, though. I think that'll be interesting. I could definitely see some meta humor where, Deadpool maybe looks at the camera and be like, oh, right, I can't say that in this movie, or something like that. A cheeky little thing like that. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Or maybe a lot more obscure innuendos, or like nonsensical innuendos. So what I'm saying is there's creative ways to fit him in, I'm really interested to see where it goes, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I am too. So that is the interesting part, because I'm sure
it'll be good. The MCU writers, they know how to punch up scripts.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see some of the humor they work with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's got to be some sort of callback to that.
I could see the gears are spinning right now, imagining all the crazy antics they could get up to.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be interesting. And now that they've fully committed to this multiverse nonsense, could you imagine the mayhem that they could get up to with Deadpool in the multiverse?
Yeah.
Man. So yeah, good things ahead for the MCU, but it's not the only Disney property with a bright future. There's been some Star Wars news, some big Star Wars news. EA loses exclusive rights to make Star Wars games, and coupled with the announcement that Ubisoft is now working on an open world single player game. Rich, thoughts on EA losing the exclusive rights? Everybody was very upset that EA had the exclusive rights, and now, of course, they're fine. It's going to be expiring, and Disney, Lucas, I forget they've recently rebranded Lucasfilm Games or something. Started this partnership with Ubisoft. So they're basically saying, yeah, EA is, they can continue to make Star Wars games, but they're not the exclusive maker anymore. What do you think? Good move, bad move?
Good move. The EA should not have the monopoly on Star Wars games, especially with their track record on their releases on Battlefront and all that chaos that happened from those games. Ubisoft, you're up to bat. I hope you guys make a decent Star Wars game, because I would hate if Ubisoft also puts out a bad game, because then it is going to look like EA will be like, oh, see, haha, you thought it'd be easy to make a Star Wars game. And it's just, you just got to be fair to the player. That's all we're asking for.
Right.
When it comes to some of the things EA has done, we just ask for just, you're fair with us. You level with players. You don't put so many microtransactions in these games. That's all we ask for,
Yeah. I will say this about EA is they started to understand that, the past couple of years. They had Fallen Order, from what I understand. Squadrons was a little bit better than the Battlefront games, but too little too late, right?
Yep.
But by the time they came out with Fallen Order, the damage had been done with Battlefront 1 and 2. Catastrophic damage. You know, I think they had one of the most downvoted posts in Reddit history when they
Yep.
announced microtransactions for Battlefront 2.
Yep.
EA can make good games, but they so often don't because of these weird business decisions. That's not to say Ubisoft is any better, but it'll be interesting. Ubisoft already is announcing that it's an open world single player game. You know, when so many of the EA Star Wars games had been multiplayer focused. Now Ubisoft is saying we're committing to a single player open world. And I want to know what an open world Star Wars game looks like. That could be really cool or really tedious.
I mean, not to say steal from Mass Effect, but I wouldn't mind if you had a Mass Effect kind of game in a Star Wars setting where you build your own crew. Or how about the Outer Worlds? A game like the Outer Worlds, but in the Star Wars universe, where you get to choose who's on your crew, who you trust. That seems like a home run idea to me. That right there.
Yeah. I would love now. Oh man, there could be so many amazing possibilities. I mean, especially on the next gen consoles, or I guess current gen consoles, it could be incredible. The only question is, do they go with the smuggler route, where you're like a sort of desperado guy, or do they go with like the Jedi route? Do they do something in like the Old Republic, or what are they calling it? The High Age, whatever the new era of Star Wars they're talking about.
Yeah, that's before the prequel trilogy and
before
stuff.
the prequel trilogy. Yeah,
High Republic.
The High Republic. That's what it is. I couldn't remember. Wouldn't it be fantastic to have an open world Star Wars game where you play as like a squad of Jedi or something like that? That's tasked with, like, I don't know, policing the galaxy or whatever it is. More than I do.
Yeah,
But
you could go that route. You could go the scoundrel route, where it's more like the Mandalorian, and you have to choose who's going to be on your crew. Or there's a lot of options. The world, it's not a world, it's a galaxy. There's a
galaxy.
there's a lot of options to go with. So
it's interesting that you bring up the Mandalorian, because that could be a potential tie-in for Ubisoft, given the popularity of the second season of the Mandalorian. And I mean, what a season.
Yep.
Just to transition right into it, I finally finished season 2.
Yay!
You've been waiting for me to finish season 2 so we could talk about this. I have finished it. It has been finished. I saw, I conquered. A little bit of spoiler warning for everybody, because we're gonna dive into some spoilers. We got to dive into some spoilers, Rich, because I gotta find out what the hell is going on here.
All right, I hope by now everybody's watched season 2 of Mandalorian.
Yeah, because I got to hear it from the lore master himself, Rich. What's going on here? So season 2, I was concerned because I thought it had been spoiled, the whole Ahsoka Tano thing, and you were like, Mike, that's not even scratching the surface, and you were right, because immediately after that, they're like, oh, by the way, Boba Fett is still alive. Oh, and also, by the way, we're just going to casually have Luke effing Skywalker show up in the season finale. Rich, this completely upends what I thought I knew about the 30 years between Return of the Jedi and whatever, the Force Awakens. I almost forgot the name of it. Because I was under the impression that there were no Jedi left, that it was just Luke. And so now we have Ahsoka Tano, which I thought, oh, wow, that's really interesting. But now we also have Luke taking Grogu. We have a name now as well.
Yeah, we have a name for him.
I'm still going to call him Baby Yoda because it's easier. Rich, is there anything in the expanded universe that explains this, or is this completely uncharted territory?
So there are, I would say, if you're interested in more on the Jedi aspect, more details on Ahsoka is revealed in the animated series Star Wars Rebels.
I will say, seeing that episode almost prompted me to start watching the animated series right away. I'm super interested.
If you're interested in that aspect, I would say, yeah, take some time and watch a couple episodes of Rebels, and you'll get more of the lore as to what Ahsoka is up to, and and how she's hiding and stuff like that. Um, for me, the bigger issue, uh, I'm surprised you haven't. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you didn't catch on to it. My
What?
bigger thing is the
That
reveal
of what?
of Grand Admiral
Oh,
Thrawn.
Thrawn. Yeah. When she mentioned that, I was like, oh wow, that's a whole trilogy that Rich always talks about. It's a book trilogy. So if correct me if I'm wrong, I remember you talking about him, but he's like a holdout from the Empire, right?
Right.
That's sort of like doing his own thing. You know, he's not letting it go. Is this the bridge between the Empire and the New Order that I'm starting to see connections here?
Right. This could be the perfect way to still expand the Star Wars universe, but without having it be relegated to the Skywalker saga. And we are dealing with a time frame that is around 25 years. There's a
Yeah.
lot of content you can play out with this.
Oh yeah.
And Thrawn is the perfect um arch nemesis to put. Um so the tag team this, and this is something I can't wait to hear your opinion on,
Okay.
is that there was a report that came out that Disney wants to do a Thanos like buildup in the Star Wars universe.
I love it.
Guess what?
What?
You've got this hint of
Right.
Grand Admiral Thrawn, the smartest military guru the Empire has, and he's out there without Palpatine and the remnants of, and he's now there with the remnants of the Empire. Right there's your Thanos level villain, and then they want to try and use, like the Infinity Stones as breadcrumbs to lead up to him.
Right.
Mandalorian just introduced a Darksaber.
Right.
You have Grogu,
Right.
and now we were teased with all these other shows that are coming out for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Do I hear right? Doesn't this
An
sound
SWCU? Absolutely.
right?
I'm loving this concept of an SWCU, and it doesn't roll off the tongue as much as MCU, but give it
We'll
time.
still call it Star Wars.
We'll call it Star Wars. But I love the idea of a cinematic universe. I love this idea of, and you know what's interesting? You bring up this Thrawn as this overseer. It's dawning on me now that I can't even remember his name. Esposito is way too involved as a villain. Like you never saw Palpatine just like hunt after people on his own. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there needs to be a puppet master. There needs to be that the way the Empire's always worked, right? There's always been somebody pulling the strings.
Yeah.
From above. And I always thought, man, I can't even remember his name now, the Darksaber guy. I was like, man, he's a little too involved.
Moff Gideon.
He was a little too involved. There's got to be somebody above him. Well, there you go. That's the guy above him. It almost reminds me, it's very reminiscent of the first Avengers movie, Loki, right? We're like, oh man, Loki, what a great villain. And then it's like, oh wait, Loki's not the big bad. He's just, the current big bad, right? There's somebody bigger than that looming in the background. So yeah, I would be totally on board with that. Like I said, when Disney announced its slate of Star Wars projects, I was immediately intrigued by things like the Acolyte, the Ahsoka Tano thing, everything else that they announced. And I'm like, man, they are really expanding this universe. And that's always the thing that I wanted from Star Wars. And I know, you had always said that there's a huge expanded universe, but as somebody who only watched the movies, I was like, man, there's this big, wide open universe. There's so much that they can touch on in terms of like different races and the history of the Jedi Order and, different planets and the government and everything like that. There's so much there, but it's only very surface level. The cinematic universe is an opportunity for them to really dive deep and show off more of that. And so I'm really excited to see finally outside of the Skywalker, although not really outside the Skywalker saga now, I guess, since Luke was in The Mandalorian season 3, but outside of that timeline that we're used to.
Yeah.
I think that that'll be an interesting thing. I've always had questions about what happened in the in between years. What happened,
Well,
off screen.
well, you may get your answer with this new development happening with the Mandalorian and these other Star Wars TV shows, because if they do this right, this is what Star Wars needed to regain the trust with the fans. This could be on the scale of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It really could.
Oh, easily. I mean, yeah, Marvel had to build up its cinematic universe from relative obscurity. I mean, remember when they started with Iron Man? Who's Iron Man? Remember, we all knew who Iron Man was, but like he wasn't an A-list hero.
Right.
He was like a C-list hero. Do you remember going to see that movie? It was like high school, college, whatever it was. Like,
Yeah.
what is this Iron Man? I was like, all right, fine, it'll be a fun time. We never realized it would turn into what it did. Star Wars comes into it being Star Wars. Like you have a huge leg up there. I mean, you have the
Yep.
name recognition. So
The pieces fit too well.
yeah.
Like Thrawn really could be Thanos. This really works out.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm super interested to see where it all goes. They also have the Book of Boba Fett,
Yep.
another series coming out. So yeah, they're really spinning. I did think, I was like, man, it's interesting that they have so many spin-offs that they're announcing at once, but it all makes sense now. They're creating this huge interconnected web. Oh man, it's going to be so exciting. I'm so looking forward to it. And for anyone, I don't know why you're listening to this if you haven't seen The Mandalorian season 2, but if you happen to, just to give a brief 2 cents on what I thought, so much better than season 1. I mean, head and shoulders better than season 1. It pains me to think I almost stopped watching.
Yeah, I had to get you on board.
You had to convince me week after week after week, to go watch it. Because season 1, I didn't care. I did not care about the Mandalorian. I did not care about the characters.
What's the matter? You didn't like Baby Yoda?
Baby Yoda was fine, but like for the Mandalorian, the actual character of the Mandalorian, I was like, man, I really do not care about this dude. I do not care about the relationship. I was like, I'm not feeling anything. That felt like a series of disconnected stories. Season 2 had a much tighter plot. I thought that they really emphasized the relationship between the Mandalorian and Grogu. They had, the appropriate amount of intrigue without it feeling too jumpy all over the place. Season 1 was very jumpy, back and forth, back and forth. Season 2 was jumpy as well, but there was more, it seemed more realistic. And I just really love the fact that they deepened, like I said, they deepened that look into the lore of it. We start to get a little bit more of the Jedi thing. We got Ahsoka Tano. We got Luke Skywalker at the end. We got Boba Fett coming back, which was another big reveal. That was amazing. I saw the silhouette of the ship and I was watching with my mom. I said, that's Boba Fett's ship. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like that. I can't remember its name, but I was like, that's
Slave One.
Slave One. I was like, that's Boba Fett's ship. And the same thing, when I saw an X-Wing pull into that Star Destroyer, I was like, it's going to be Luke. Hey, who else just randomly flies an X-Wing up and then whips out a lightsaber? There's only one person that I could think of that has that combo.
It was fantastic.
It was fantastic. It was amazing. It was complete fan service, both of those reveals. But I don't care.
It worked.
But it worked. It worked better than the fan service that happened in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
So it was fan service that served a point.
Right. It has to make sense. If it doesn't, then it's Rise of Skywalker trash.
You can't just have that ghost hand come out of fire and stop a lightsaber. That happened, didn't it? I didn't imagine that.
Are you talking about when Palpatine is?
No, the ghost hand that stopped. Maybe I'm mixing something up. Wasn't there? There was a ghost conversation.
I'm trying to think what exactly you're talking about. I think you might be thinking of Palpatine talking with Kylo.
I don't know.
I think that's what you're talking.
It was a dumb movie. I fell asleep twice. I fell asleep twice during that movie.
It was. So Mandalorian.
But anyway.
The Mandalorian is single-handedly saving Star Wars. That's all you need to know.
You mentioned that before, and I'm in agreement. It's doing wonders for the franchise. Rise of Skywalker didn't almost kill it, but it definitely damaged it. Mandalorian season 2 is course correcting in a big way.
Correct.
So don't sleep on it.
Yeah. All right, let's get to odd news. I gotta hurry up.
Right.
We gotta get to some odd news here.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
And I got a Florida odd news story for you, Mike. So,
well, of course you do. Who is this effing guy in Florida? It's Florida, and they're crazy.
I'm now switching to water.
Oh, you need water to stay hydrated for the craziness that is Florida. That makes sense.
Yeah, I've gone through the gauntlet of drinks during this podcast.
After the podcast is when you grab your beer, right?
Yeah, that's after. There you go. Perfect.
There
you go. We got the cycle. Okay, so got a Florida story here for you. Something that happened during Christmas.
Okay.
Because now we're in the post-holiday era, so now
right.
Christmas stories are coming out. A Florida woman was arrested for battery after she fought her sister with Christmas decorations during a 2 a.m. domestic dispute about politics at the Christmas dinner table, according to family members.
You don't talk politics during the holidays. What's wrong with you people? Also, 2 a.m.?
2 a.m. Yeah, this party's going.
This party's really going. So let me get this straight. They're still sitting around I assume they weren't still having dinner, but they were sitting around the dinner table.
Yeah.
And they were just, talking, having a good time. And this lady's like, politics. This is the time.
Bam.
2 a.m. on Christmas.
2 a.m.
Drops a grenade.
Right now, I'm going to reveal all my political views.
Oh, man. And she just word vomits all over the Christmas table.
Yeah.
All her political views. So they fought with Christmas decorations.
Yeah. Let me get to the start of the story.
Okay.
Police say that 55-year-old Shirley Rogers first started the argument with her boyfriend.
Okay.
So first off, the sister isn't even a part of this initially.
Right. So she starts an argument with her boyfriend. The argument is, it's about politics from the start with her boyfriend?
Which is also weird because if you guys are dating, shouldn't you guys know your basic political viewpoints?
Yeah, right. They always say opposites attract, but not when it comes to something like that.
Yeah. So they got into the argument first. It spread to the family.
It spread to the family. You make the argument sound like a virus. It spread to the family.
It's like a fire. It's like a torch. You threw the torch, fire caught on everything.
Yeah. Oh, man.
All right. Ironically, the sister was trying to, quote, diffuse the situation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the person that's trying to stop this whole thing from happening is the one that gets hurt in this fighting.
I mean, that's usually how it happens, right? It's always the person that steps in the middle, like, whoa, everybody calm down. They're always the one that gets hit.
Yeah, why? Why does that happen?
Don't step in the middle of a fight. Don't do it.
So while the sister was trying to calm down Rogers, that's when she grabbed a small Christmas tree and repeatedly struck her in the torso with it.
Wow.
A small Christmas tree.
How small is small? Like one of those little tabletop ones?
I guess. And she's almost like using it like a knife, like just bam, bam, bam.
Oh, you think she's stabbing? I thought she was like whacking with it, like using it like a club, but you think it's more of a stabbing motion.
I think so. The police description of the item.
Oh, here we go.
Says that it's a beaded Christmas cone tree decoration.
What the heck does that mean? Beaded Christmas cone.
Beaded
you say Christmas cone?
Beaded Christmas cone tree decoration. That seems just like a bunch of nouns thrown together.
Oh, I see what. So I looked it up. What a Christmas cone tree looks like. So it's not a Christmas tree per se. It's almost like it's a cone that it has got beads along the outside of it. It's just a cone.
So am I right in thinking it's more of like a stabbing kind of a thing?
I mean, the pictures that I see, I wish I could do a screen share there. And the pictures I'm seeing, it comes to a point, right?
Yeah.
It's a cone with a point. So one of two things, you could grab it by the thin end and use it like a club and beat somebody. Or you're right, if it is pointed like that, it is, because it is a cone and not a tree, it seems like it's a more rigid structure. You could stab somebody. I like the idea that she went and just kind of like jabbed him with this cone.
I think I might be right. According to the police report, the victim, quote, had small cuts on her left side of the body where the defendant had struck her. So
So you think she's going in with like a stabbing motion with this Christmas cone?
So it left cuts.
How?
So there's some damage done here.
Jeez. So wait, just back up a second, just to make sure I'm understanding. This is the person trying to defuse the fight.
Yeah, is the victim. Yeah.
Oh, is the person getting hit, not the person doing the hitting?
No.
Okay.
The person doing the hitting is the one that started this whole political argument right off the bat.
This is so dumb.
That is 55-year-old Shirley Rogers. And I do have her mugshot here.
Of course.
I don't know if it'll work on the screen here. There she is.
There she is. She's got this side eye thing going on.
I don't know. I don't think I'm getting it to work.
No, I caught a glimpse of it. But she has, there it is. She's got this like side eye thing going on and like a little bit of a smirk. She's like, yeah, that's right.
I did it.
Don't mess with me. So this woman is particularly annoying. She's the worst kind of dinner party guest where she starts the fight, right? And then she like then physically assaults people. So she started the problem and then she exacerbated the problem.
And she started with her boyfriend.
She started with her boyfriend. Like that's the worst. That's the worst, is because they're having this awkward argument and everyone's like, oh man, this is weird. You know? And then somebody's like, hey, why don't you guys like take this somewhere else, or like just put a pin in it for now?
No, die.
No, die. And then she stabs her with a Christmas tree. Right, exactly.
Like the true spirit of Christmas.
Right, exactly. Oh my, the true spirit of Christmas.
Yeah. She was arrested on a misdemeanor battery charge and booked into the county jail. She was then released from custody after posting a $500 bond.
That's nothing.
Yeah, no, she's fine. She's back
out. There goes all her Christmas money.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, she just lost all her Christmas money.
What a way to spend your Christmas money.
Yeah,
that's funny though. On future Christmas lists, she's like, I just want money to pay for bail.
Yeah,
because something's gonna happen.
All I want for Christmas is my bail money. My bail money. My bail money. All I want for Christmas is my bail money, so I can hit my little sister. Ow!
Oh my God.
There you go.
You know what? That's just as good as any other Christmas song out there.
There you go. The newest Christmas song.
The newest Christmas. You know, you should record that. Yeah. You know what, Rich? Put a bookmark on this one. Because we didn't do Christmas parodies this year, but that might be a Christmas parody for 2021.
Yeah, there you go.
Christmas is my bail money. There we go.
Christmas is my bail money.
That's perfect. I love that. Starting to see that. No matter what 2020 and 2021 has taken from us, it gives us amazing Christmas jingles like All I Want for Christmas is My Bail Money.
Yep, there you go.
Beautiful.
We're still firing out the hits here on the Crispy Noodles.
That's right.
All right, let's get to apocalypse activities. Mike, what do you want to tell people to do this weekend?
Crochet.
Okay, sounds great.
I'm learning how to crochet. Rich, this pandemic is taking a toll on all of us. I'm now in the crocheting stage. No, all joking aside, my girlfriend had a ton of extra yarn, and I was like, look, you can't buy any more yarn unless you actually use some of this yarn that you already have. Because it was like an absurd amount of yarn.
That's a good rule of thumb.
It is a good rule of thumb. You got to use the yarn before you buy new yarn. And she of course agreed. She's like, yeah, clearly I got a lot of yarn. So I'm learning how to crochet, and we're making little squares. Little I'm going to try my best. It's tough. It's really hard if you've never done it before. But we're going to try to make little 5x5 squares and find a place to donate them to so they can be turned into like blankets or something. It's sort of a 2021 project that we're thinking of doing is using all this like piecemeal bits of yarn to make, they're called granny squares. So they're like, squares of yarn fabric that, people crochet into larger pieces. So that's what I've been doing. It's a bitch. It's so hard to crochet, Ritz. I'm not even kidding. It is really like, I cannot make my hand move the way that I need it to move. Like I can't keep the right tension on the yarn, and I'm always like awkwardly adjusting it, like constantly like resetting my hands. Could you imagine me crocheting? Like think of that. Think of that image. Me just with my crochet hook needle thing.
Mike, this is 2021, man. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. Me crocheting is possible. Do you ever think you'd hear that one? But that's what I suggest. Seriously, pick up a hobby that you've never tried before. I've never tried crocheting. It was an interesting thing to learn, and it's kind of meditative when I'm not struggling with it and cursing it out. But try something you never tried before. That's my apocalypse activity. Rich, what do you got for us in apocalypse activities?
All right, I'm just going to keep it quick. NFL playoff games this weekend. I think it's the best way to spend the weekend. Each game is its own thing. I love it. You can analyze each game in real time, and you're not like I said before, it's not like football overload. It's just the right amount of football. You watch it, you enjoy it. If you get wings, you enjoy your wings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is my favorite time of the football season.
It sounds like somebody's trying to get wings this weekend for football.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the real reason. The real reason to watch playoff football is beer and wings.
Yes,
and pizza. Oh, and pizza too.
You can't go wrong. So I'm looking forward to this weekend for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. But for right now, we have hit our mark. We need to start wrapping up this show. Thank you guys for supporting our podcast, no matter what challenge gets thrown our way, whether it's a pandemic or a broken laptop. We are still here to give you a fresh episode every week. If you like what you heard, make sure you go to our website, thecrispynoodle.com. Make sure you're following us on all the social media channels so that you are aware of what's happening with the show or any other items that relate to the show as well.
That's right. You can also subscribe to our channel on YouTube, where you can find video versions of this podcast, as well as a whole bunch of other content up there. But you can still get the audio-only version of the podcast as well on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. So make sure you search for, download, and subscribe to the Crispy Noodle Podcast on the podcast service of your choice or YouTube.
That's right. We have a SoundCloud page as well. Go check that out. We're available on Amazon devices now. I always forget about that. If you have the commands at home, you can say the command and it will work. Every now and then.
Wow.
Every now
I gotta try that.
Yeah, every now and then I do it. Just like I forget that that's a thing, and it's bizarre. It works. You can hear yourself through, Mike. You can hear us through the speakers. So
I'm gonna do that.
You try that out at some point as well.
Nice. So many ways to get in touch with and share the Crispy Noodle Podcast and listen to the Crispy Noodle Podcast. But if you want to get in touch with us individually, you can find us on Twitter. And you can share your sports, entertainment, or odd news stories with us there. I'm at Mikey Costanzo, MikeyCostanzo.
And I am at Rich Liebig, RichLiebig. You can find us on the Twitters. Send us topics to talk about. And if we use them, we'll give you a shout out. And let us know how we're doing with the show, and let us know what's happening in your world. Once again, I apologize that my laptop is still on the fritz, but I assure you, when we eventually get my laptop back in working order, we are going to have a really nice polished broadcast format that I can't wait for everyone to see. So still keep tuned. We got some exciting stuff coming up in 2021, but for right now, got to wrap this up. This has been the Crispy Noodle. Let us be the Crispy Noodle in your vegetarian salad of life and boring news. Anything else, Mike?
No, that's it. Everybody have a good weekend and enjoy your football and wings and crocheting.
That's right. And I'm going to switch now from water to beer to complete the cycle. So there you
There
go.
you go.
But for now, we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.
Later. Bye-bye, y'all fine peoples.